So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this morning, I'm delighted to have with us Bob Gomersall, who's chair and founder at Surpass Assessment. So, firstly, Bob, thank you for spending a bit of time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, Surpass Assessment, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Chris. That's great. Well, Surpass Assessment is it basically applies the technology to awarding bodies, professional association, anybody who does what we call high stakes exams, and in fact, some of the school awarding bodies are involved as well. And
Right.
so we do that right around the world. We tend to do it by licensing the technology, and our focus is on what we call high stakes exams, exams that you need to pass either to progress in your career or to go or to get a job, basically.
Yeah. But wonderful. So that's a very broad church, I would suggest. Now so
Yes,
you must be operating in so many different sectors, so many different industries.
yes, we are. Although I think our we tend to be particularly well in accountancy, medical, legal, those sort of areas. Frankly, the sort of areas where they can afford to pay, because it tends to be fairly large numbers that we do. We're not very good at small numbers at
Yeah,
all.
yeah,
And the assessment process is a very wide thing. It goes from question creation, item banking of questions, delivery of exams, often on screen, psychometrics, analytics for the results. And a lot of, we'd also do what's called formative assessment, which is um, assessment. We do some for example, we do it for the Welsh government, every child in Wales, where we assess uh, how they're doing, but it's not doing assessing the teachers or indeed the children. It's just finding out where they are and giving
yeah.
the feedback to the children and the teachers about which bits of their knowledge they could do something about.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's. I love doing these interviews. I love meeting business people across Yorkshire because it's a great example of a business that needs to happen, but it's not something you come to mind straight away. It's like, well, of course we need to do assessments, but when you've got 10 people, you could do a bit of paper. But when you've got ten
Yeah,
thousand people, you need systems like yours, I'm sure.
yeah. Well, you're right. I mean, actually, for most of my time, we've been going 40 years. For most of that time, people haven't got a clue what the hell we did. And I mean, that was the most common thing. People asked me what we did. I told them, they still didn't know what the hell we did. At the end of that point.
and, and it's just that great thing of, well, of course somebody needs systems. People need systems to manage this sort of volume of people, and it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like, and I love it. It's just great. It's great. It's just obviously finding opportunity. Perhaps if you be kind of, perhaps we could talk initially about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one for you.
Well, actually, I started out as a physicist. I did work in research in theoretical physics, which was my first love, really, and I
Yep.
kind of expected I'd have stayed in that. But for personal reasons, we moved around a bit, and my wife has a career as well. And so I taught at Manchester Grammar School, actually, and then at Bradford Grammar School. And during that time, I developed my ideas on where technology could come into education. And that was really, I mean, when we started at Manchester, this was before the desktop computer. That's how old I am.
Yes.
Yeah, they didn't have desktop computers, and so we had a computer room, a mini as they called it, and wrote some programs for testing A-level physics, and sent the kids round there to have a go at them, and it recorded their results, and told me how they'd done, and told them how they'd done, and that was kind of, in simple terms, pretty well what we do now. But
Brilliant.
at that time, tried to interest people in it, and it became clear if I was going to do anything, I'd have to set up my own company to do it, basically.
Yeah, which is clear,
And
clear, clearly what
yeah,
you did.
and so yeah, so that's indeed what I did. Although I then, while I was teaching, quite soon early on, I got this company going. It was hard to get anything moving in that area, so I did some medical electronics stuff that I designed myself, uh,
Right.
audiometric equipment, and I started selling that. And that got the business going. I got the turnover up to about 100,000, which at the time seemed astronomical, really.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
And it got the thing going. Then it kind of saturated, and I had the chance. I sort of moved it to one side and had the chance to. I sold it off actually eventually. I had the chance to get on with some educational technology, and that's what got me going there. And we started with um, uh, uh, learning materials. Oh, we did some assessment. We did some assessment for. I don't know if you remember the city technology colleges,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
but they were the forerunners of the academies actually.
Yep.
There's everywhere now. And I did the one was set up in Bradford. And we did some assessments for candidates. Not we had to assess their aptitude, but not whether they were suitable to get in.
Yep.
And so we did some aptitude tests, on-screen aptitude tests, right at the beginning. And that was our very first kind of activity in that area. And I got drawn into, all sorts of things, tutorial materials and that sort of thing. And the assessment led to our current business. The tutorial materials led to a company called Virtual College, which I sold off a few years ago. And the medical stuff, as it happens, led ultimately to a company called ADI, which also is now gone, but it's now called. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Once it goes, you forget.
Yes.
It's called My Pathway, and the project is called My Pathway, and it's being used by some of the larger health
Right.
trusts.
Yeah.
So those three, and then two of the business have now gone, and I'm now focusing on Surpass, which has continued to grow very nicely through all those years, basically.
Amazing. Amazing. And at its height, we were talking beforehand. At its height, how many people did you have working for the business or the group of businesses, roughly?
Well, at its peak of about 500, I suppose, but they were across the three businesses, and we're now in Surpass. We're now about 150 in the UK and some, I don't know, 20 or 30 in the US. I think we have a US subsidiary,
Wonderful.
which is growing quite rapidly.
Wonderful. And I'd like to come back to that a bit later on and just ask you some questions around growing businesses of significant size in terms of people, because
Yes,
I think that'd be
yeah,
very helpful. But looking back,
yeah.
whether it is people challenges or not, looking back over that time, what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome, Bob?
Well, as I said, it was sort of general uh, ignorance about what's possible. You sort of when you really start, you're talking about great. You think, okay, great idea. It must be obvious that it's going to be a good thing, and
Yes.
everybody ought to see it, but nobody ever does see it. And so that's the thing. I can remember being at a show once talking about it, and somebody come out and say, "Oh, I wouldn't do it like that." And he said, "Well, yeah, fair enough, but you're not doing it."
Yeah, absolutely. People are good at telling you what they can't do. And I think
Yeah,
that's always the thing is they'll tell you what they can't do, not what you can't do.
that's it. There's a certain, I don't know, there's strategic direction. I mean, several times I've had to make decisions about which way I thought things were going.
Yes.
And if I got it wrong, I wouldn't be here. I'd have done
Yep.
something else. I mean, no doubt I'd have sorted something else out, but
Absolutely.
there's, not really sort of the one I remember most was when CD-ROMs appeared, and you had to choose which storage media to use for your content. And
Yes.
um, the CD-ROM, CD-ROM XA, CDI, 12-inch laser disc. Those are the
Yes.
ones I remember.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
sitting there looking at this array of things. I can't even afford to get into one of them. Never mind all six. So I had to make a judgment about which one was going to win. And we all know now it was CD-ROM, but it wasn't at
Yes.
all obvious at the time.
Yep.
And so that was quite a difficult. Those are the major sort of difficulties. I think the other one is sales. Really, it's finding people who are able to sell something new uh,
Yes.
into the market. Very, very difficult, and that's always been. We've got a lot better at that now, but it's taken a long time.
It's a really interesting point, actually, because it is, as you say, something new. I was talking to somebody yesterday. One of my business heroes is a guy called Sir Terry Matthews, who very few people will know. You may well know, but he's famous being the first Welsh billionaire. Um,
All right, yeah.
and he made most of his money initially um, on basically bringing microelectronics into the UK in the sort of late 70s, early 80s, pretty much
All right,
alongside Alan Sugar. But he
yeah.
in terms of volume of business, it's quite significantly more
Yes,
than AMS, but has always chosen to be the background. So very few people are aware of him and who he is.
yes.
We were lucky enough to get him to speak at one of our national conferences a few years ago, and someone asked him a question, and this is what this is quite interesting. Relates to as the almost mirror image of what you've described is. Somebody asked him, "What's your secret to business?" He said, "I'm sorry, this is a really simple question, but what's this?" And he said, "Look, this might sound like a simple answer, but basically, I asked my customers what they wanted, and I got it for them."
Yes, yes, exactly. That,
And
that's very good.
and that's different. And just sitting here talking to you, there's so many ways of successful ways of growing a business. That is, what does the market want? I'll deliver it. In yours, this is new. This is something the market will want, but they don't know it yet. And that's a very different marketing and selling proposition
Yeah,
to someone that's saying, "Well, you need a mug." Selling mugs is about why the mug is better. We know you need a mug, so it's why
yeah.
this mug is better than that mug. When you're
Well,
selling something that's new, it's like you didn't know you needed that.
well, that's true. And I mean, that comment you made is very good. I mean, I often say the key to business is just making yourself useful. If you make yourself useful,
Yes,
people will pay for it. It's as
yes,
simple as that, one
love
way
it.
or another. And that sort of guides me all the time and think, well, is it going to be useful? And therefore, will people pay for it? It's as simple as that, really.
I love that. Thank you. We're going to talk about quotes later on. I've got yours already. Make
I
yourselves
hadn't
useful.
thought of that one actually. No, that's
Absolutely.
another one.
But what a great, absolutely the simpler the better, isn't it? Give
Yeah,
people what they
yeah,
want, make
I
yourself
agree.
useful. These are the sorts of things. Yeah, wonderful. So obviously, I'm keen to know, obviously, whether it's from your things you've learned, from it's your challenges or your successes. What are your biggest learnings about growing businesses successfully?
Well, interesting. You've got to be quite resilient. You've got to keep going. When
Yep.
things look bad, you've got to keep going. Resilience is a buzzword for that.
Yes.
But you do get blockers everywhere. Unfortunately, uh, you know, if you're a small business or a growing business, middle managers in big companies are pretty arrogant in their dealings with you. You've got to be able to get past that. If you
Yes.
can get at the entrepreneur, the person at the top, usually you're okay. And you can get sense out of them, but it's very hard getting beyond that. So blockers are a big problem. People just get in your way when you're trying to do something, and so on. And a lot of the people, a lot of people sort of block me on the way up, really, and now always wanting to talk to me. And it's interesting how that's turned around. Um, but actually, the other thing is, I've written a book actually called Worthwhile Wealth. It's called Worthwhile Wealth: An Entrepreneur's Guide to Success and Satisfied, and
Wonderful.
satisfies. And it's not. It's not. I'd love to have a copy with me, but I've just given it to somebody. I'll give them my only copy here.
I will find it.
Yes, I
I will
can't
find it
share
and
it,
read it.
but it's gone very well, and it was a finalist in the Business Book Awards. But basically, the theme is don't just focus on making money. Focus on
Yeah.
doing something that you've got real reasons for doing, that you like doing, that you enjoy, and so on. And a lot of people get into jobs where they like doing it, and that's fine, no problem. But if you're in a job and you hate it, and that's a common I hear from a lot of people,
Yeah.
um, my response was, well, set up a business to do it. And then the question, how do you do it, and what do you do? And it's usually a way. There's usually a way of doing it. And
Yes.
that's, I mean, I was quote in my book, give a lot of case studies of people who've done that sort of thing. And some have made a lot of money, and some have set up not-for-profit businesses.
Yep.
And I mean, one guy who's a good friend wanted to he left teaching and wanted to do something in music. His advice did that's what he liked doing, music, singing. And he said, well, how can I set up a business in singing? I suppose the first thought was, how do you get? He was a teacher as well, so how do you get to teaching singing? And then he realised it worked out that by setting up choirs, he could run, could have a living from
Yep.
running choirs, which is what he did. And I'm in one of his choirs. That's how I know him.
Right.
Uh, but I just thought it's a great example. He's not going to make a mint out of it, but he's doing what he loves doing all the time, and that's to me that's the biggest thing. Not
Yeah.
whether you made a mint. And it's interesting, a lot of people I know in business, I know some very successful entrepreneurs, none of them are motivated by money. You to read the papers, you think they're
Yes,
all heavily motivated by money.
yes,
Well, they like money as a measure of performance, surely.
yes.
But most of them are motivated by, legacy or doing something worthwhile. Those sort of things just are just much more important for many people. Those I've talked to anyway.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, the reality probably is the people that are reporting on them are motivated by money, and that's why they're
Yeah,
talking about money.
yeah,
That
yeah. I mean, you mentioned Alan Sugar, and I think you know, The Apprentice is a great television. I love watching it, but it's not very close to business as
it's
I
entertainment,
understand it at all.
100%.
You
You can learn
know,
bits. I think I love given away. I love. I think one big part you can learn is just that whole interpersonal communication. It's a great
yeah,
show for seeing how people get out of their comfort zone and communicate effectively.
oh
But
yeah,
as you
yeah.
rightly say, I mean, yeah, it's in terms of the challenges, they're not really doing anything in a couple of days. It's not really
Well,
realistic.
yeah, and I mean, you've obviously got to be persistent and all those things, but sort of
Yes,
still make a quick buck. Well, I mean, sure, some people work like that, but I don't know many who actually do like that.
we
They're much more about their workforce, keep their workforce happy, grow the business, keep their customers happy. That seems to be much more the route towards success
we
among the
we, we
people I know, anyway.
Yeah, we call it the law of precession, and basically it means operating to your purpose, which is often 90 degrees at that point in terms of finance. But the point
Yes,
being is the money turns up. If you focus on, as you said, becoming useful, helping as many people as we can, the money turns up. It's a
yeah,
result of focusing on purpose and culture rather than focusing on. I mean, if a phrase somebody used a while ago, if you chase money, you're it will typically elude you because you're chasing it.
yeah,
You know,
exactly. I think that's
it, it's
absolutely right.
it's
I think
that
that is absolutely right. Yeah.
it's yeah. So so just one thing I really would like your thoughts on is you've some great points about growing a business. As a business grows, and we talked beforehand, let's say past 100 people, there were people watching here that have 10, 20, 30 people, there'll be some with more. But as you get past that sort of 150 mark, what's different about running a business of that size in terms of people?
Yeah, well, let's work backwards. I mean,
Yeah,
when you're very small, say up to 1 million or two turnover, there's two key roles really. There's the kind of the sales and marketing side of things,
yeah,
and there's the operations side of things. And each time I've done it, that's the way we've had two people, one doing one doing the other, basically.
yep,
And then somewhere about 3, 4 million, you need a proper board really with a sales function and a finance function and
yes.
chief exec and all that kind of stuff. And then that sort of goes up beyond that, and then gradually proper board. Although actually we've always done proper formal structures all the way through. We've always had board meetings and so on. But the crucial thing as I see it is then maintaining the culture as it goes on. And I think we've been of a variable success really, but certainly with Surpass, we've been very successful. I think there's
Yes.
culture, and you're going to ask me how I do it, and I don't know. That's the problem.
Oh, you just get us to read your book. It's in the book, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but somehow, no, I've had some great people working for me, and they've understood the culture, they've absorbed the culture,
Yeah.
and they've managed to translate it into their recruitment processes,
Yes.
and then subsequently, the people they've recruited managed to translate it into their recruitment processes. So, yeah, it's almost as though we've learned from each other,
Yep.
and it's just gone down the line. But it can so easily go wrong
Yeah.
that it's very difficult to say why it's worked. I think got to be a tribute to the people, the CEOs I've had, the current CEOs. It's got to be a tribute to them, really, and the other directors and the people beneath them, really.
Sorry, I'm giggling because the mark of a great leader is giving all the credit to the people. Um,
Oh well, it's not. I mean, I don't do it for that reason. It is
no,
true. I mean, it's
sorry, I'm
absolutely
not.
true.
I'm really being very genuine there, but it is a mark of a great leader that gives the credit to the people and takes all the crap themselves. it's very common. It's very common
Yeah.
in people that mark leaders, and it's. Oh, sorry. So that's why I was giggling a little bit because it's just you are. You clearly see you're a great example of a great leader leading other people to do that and giving credit to others. Um,
Well, it's kind of easy to say so, but I really genuinely believe that people who
yes,
work with me are really very, very good indeed.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
No, I get that too. So one thing I find interesting is and I work with smaller businesses that are growing quite significantly. But I hear in some people that, and this is a phrase they say, "Well, I don't want to grow too big because the culture will change."
Yeah.
And
Well, that's interesting. Yes, I mean, obviously it's always been my worry all along. I mean, I remember reading that some companies there's a physics research company that always decided they would never go above 100 employees, and I think the rationale was something to do with what the military do. Military units
okay,
tend to
yeah,
max out around about 100, and it's the maximum number where in which you can, broadly speaking, know everybody that's involved. But we've gone beyond
interesting.
that, I suppose. It's yeah. I don't know. I mean,
But
I only know as far as we've gone, really.
yeah, no, but I guess my point is, and this is what I say to people is, um, our job as we grow the business is to be the champions of culture. And if the
Oh yeah,
culture
yeah,
stays, then we can grow to any size. And if you look at,
yeah,
it's large businesses of any size, typically the ones that stay around are the ones where they have mastered culture, where they know what their purpose, they know their culture, and the leaders are the people that enforce that to stay successful at any size, if that makes sense.
yes. And I mean, we do have to formally state what our key cultural points are: integrity and so on, and flexibility and all this. But I mean, all companies do that, and it's actually whether you actually live it out is the
Yes.
critical thing, really. And so, when you get to the point where you're tempted to tell a customer something that's not true about the competition or about yourself, that's the point at which hopefully the company culture clicks in
Yeah.
and people do tell the truth, because long term that pays off really. In the short term, you sometimes lose business, but it pays off long term.
Absolutely. I think there's so many great examples of businesses that have kept their culture strong are the ones that have survived and grown, and
Yeah,
many have come and gone because they didn't, as they grew. Too many businesses, and I think this comes. I think the people that say those things are often coming either from the corporate world or have friends and colleagues in the corporate world, where they say, "Well, the culture it's on the wall, but we're not interested
yeah,
in it," if
yeah.
that
You do
makes
hear
sense.
that a lot.
Yeah.
And I often wonder whether when people join us, I mean, obviously we try to recruit people who are likely to adopt the same culture, but I think also they learn the culture as well from other people in the
Yes.
business, and so it's kind of collective social phenomenon, really,
Yes.
and that is crucial to the whole thing. So yeah, but they've got to see that the directors live
Yes.
out that culture as well. It's no good.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, my obsession is sort of special car parking places. If you have special car, if you say, "Oh, we're all in together, we have a special car parking place," God, blimey, you you're really not living the culture that you uh,
Great. What a great point.
proposing, really.
Never,
Yeah,
never thought of that. I mean, I visit many businesses, and there's almost always the, reserved for.
yeah.
Great point.
Well, I mean, on that particular point, I've always taken the view if the car parking isn't good enough for the CEO, then it's not good enough for anybody else, really. And if there's a
Brilliant.
problem, the CEO needs to bloody well find out when he turns up and can't park his car. Because part of your job is to remove the hassle from the workforce so that when they turn up, they're not stressed out and so on. So I genuinely think that's just an example, but that's the sort of thing
Brilliant.
I think that makes a huge difference.
And it is, very simple things that often make that big difference, doesn't it? Doesn't it? So
It is.
knowing,
It is.
as I say, understanding how the main part of the workforce is managing in simple stuff can have a massive difference to engagement, to effectiveness, and therefore performance.
Yeah, I think it can have a huge impact actually. Yeah, I remember my a guy who probably influenced me the most. And when I was a young chairman of a company called HF Holidays, which is a holiday business, a cooperative. We appointed a new chief exec, and on the first day he was there, he was seen there with a sledgehammer knocking down the special parking signs for the senior executives. And apparently his comment was, "Well, if they want the parking place, they better get it here early."
Oh, I like that
That
one. Absolutely. I like that one. Yeah, you can always
I
have that.
thought
It's
it was
always free at 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, absolutely.
tremendous. Yeah, he influenced me a lot, but it's not. I mean, obviously that was just a gesture. It's obviously done
Yeah,
to,
yeah, yeah.
to emphasise the point, but it really went. It really hammered the point home. More generally, really, when he arrived,
Yes.
he was a brilliant chief exec as well, actually.
So, I mean,
Yeah,
speaking of which, you're probably aware we're a business coaching organisation. So I am keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, or life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you? Obviously, you've mentioned that CEO already.
yeah. Well, I mean, he was probably the guy who influenced the most. I mean, I was a young chairman, and so in fact, technically, I was his boss. But I mean, we got on very well indeed. And there was obviously you always get a bit of friction between chair and chief exec,
Yes.
but we got on very well. And I learned it wasn't a formal coach in that sense, but
Yes.
I learned a huge amount from him. And so he was probably, and I think actually I've not had enough decent coaches in my uh, life. That's where you come in, isn't it, Chris? With your
Absolutely.
business.
Absolutely, but I think you've done okay. So let's what we talked about
Yeah,
so far. It's okay, but yeah, it's
yeah.
the thing I love about coaching as a very specific discipline. It's about helping people get the best for themselves. It's not about being better than or telling people what to do. It's just helping people find their way through, which is a part of
Yeah.
leadership. It's a part of being a chairman and a CEO. So it's yeah. But it is a
I
specific thing.
think probably the other thing, apart from Peter, who was brilliant, really, and introduced me to a lot of people like Charles Handy, who was a big business guru at the time. And I learned a lot from reading Charles Handy, actually, and so
Yes.
on, similar people. Um, but I've also been a member of a thing called TAB, which is there are various outfits like that. You probably know TAB, I guess.
Yes, I'm familiar with them.
And it's just bring together half a dozen business people who are growing their businesses, and we met once a month, and it was very good. And I suppose in the way they were my coaches because we met once a month, and we all told them what our problems were. It's a bit like weight watching, they hold your
Yes.
feet to the fire.
Yep.
Uh, and if you don't do what they advise you to do, then it's a bit embarrassing next time you meet, really. Uh,
Yes.
but yeah, actually, it was amazing how often you go there with a problem. There'd be a consensus very quickly build up among the other businesses about what you should do about it. And then you went away and, yeah, okay, let's do it. And it
Brilliant.
worked really very well. I thought I probably learned more from that than anything else that I've done, rather than individual mentor or coach.
Brilliant. And do you have whether from any of these sources, do you have any favourite quotes or sayings about business or
Well,
success that you can share with us?
it's interesting because I do think that's a part of resilience is having something that you remind yourself of at the critical moments where the pressure really
Yes.
comes on. And the one I often revert to is nothing good was ever achieved without one leg over the precipice. And when and I
Yes.
just somebody else said that to me, and I thought, oh, I don't know. But actually, when you're really thinking, hmm. I can remember quite early on, I needed £40,000 for something. I thought I was going to need 40,000, and I can't remember how I got over it. But I remember just saying to myself, never mind, nothing was ever achieved without one leg over the precipice.
Love
So
it.
that's quite a good one. And the other one was, if it was easy, everybody else would be doing
Yes.
it. You've probably heard that before. It's quite a common one,
I,
and it is true.
I think I mean that's and that's why only 4% of the population own businesses.
Yeah,
It is that point, and I've worked, and I'm sure you have worked with some very very high performing chief execs
yeah,
that are amazing people, but always feel more comfortable working for somebody else, not having their own
Right.
business, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
all. I mean, many do go on to own their own businesses, but many, that's there. There is some element of identity that prefers that level of accountability from a board and from a chairman, etc.
It's
And
a different skill, different kind of
it
thing, really.
it really is,
Yeah.
isn't it? It
I
but
mean, I learned very early on that I'm more of a chairman than a chief exec. Um, and so as soon as I could, I appointed a chief exec,
brilliant.
myself
Uh,
chairman.
And might I ask, and feel free not to answer this question, what was the differences? What made you a great chairman and less of a great chief executive, if you don't mind
Well,
sharing?
uh, I mean, I can do it. I can do
Yeah,
the
yeah,
chief
yeah. No,
executive,
get that.
but I'm most interested in strategy and innovation, really,
Yes.
and not so much the sort of governance thing. But you've got to do that. So I'm bored by governance, but we do it.
Yep.
But yeah, strategy and innovation, and the
Yes.
chair is ideally situated to drive that, really.
Yes.
Obviously, our chief execs have major input to it, but that's the thing I like doing. So that's
Brilliant.
what I focus on, really.
I,
Uh,
I suppose it's the word. I mean, interesting enough, the word executive in chief executive, it's about executing and getting stuff done. Is the role of the
Operation,
CEO.
yeah,
Strategies, my suggestion with strategy is a lot more long term, and it is about this is where we're headed.
yeah.
But I don't need to be steering the ship
Oh,
as well. If I'm steering the ship, looking right in front of me, I'm not looking up and out about what the future
yeah,
looks like.
yeah. I'm very much more interested in what's going to happen in 3 or 4 years' time or in 10 years' time. And I
Yes.
mean, thinking long term is that's my job, and I
Yes.
mean that is one of the major problems we've got thinking long term is that most of the sources of finance are focused on short term thinking.
Yep.
And the whole of private equity operates on that basis.
Yep.
And so I'm just not of interest to private equity because I'm interested in what's going to happen in 10 years' time or 20 years'
Brilliant.
time. I mean, and that's a really difficult situation. I think nationally we've got a real problem actually because the private equity is so dominant that it's getting in the way of long-term thinking and it's
A really good
forcing
point.
companies to focus on um, loading companies with the loans, and we've seen it with water companies, load the companies with loans, and then instead of investing for the long term, which is what we've always done,
Yep.
what they're ending up doing is paying out dividends and paying interest on loans. And so there's
Yeah.
less to invest in the long term. And you see the consequence. Again, with the water companies, you see the consequences. You're dumping sewage in the rivers.
Yeah.
And so, that's I mean, we've all along, we've for 40 years, every spare bit of cash we've reinvested in the business, right in the business, keep reinvesting, minimal dividends, keep reinvesting.
Yep.
And that's what we intend to continue doing, basically.
Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. I'm sure Mr. Buffett might be interested in what you do. He's a very long-term investor. That's very much his strategy, isn't it?
Well,
Um,
that's his strategy, really. Yeah, that's the way he's
yeah,
done it, without a
absolutely.
doubt. Much more successfully than me in financial terms, but
Are these more successful than most people in financial terms? So, but that's not a bad place to be. He's a penny behind him.
well,
Um,
I
and,
mean,
and
the other sort of quote I like is it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. I always think that's a great quote. That really says stop complaining and get on with it, really.
I love
And
that.
I always find that a useful one just to
Light a
think
candle
about.
because
So
I love that
it's a
way.
Chinese proverb, actually.
Is it? No, I'm really interested. One of the most important what's the right word thing I learned when I joined Action Coach many years ago. That one of the first thing I learned, which has always stayed with me, is what we call it above and below the point of power. Okay, and
Yes,
and it basically says as we go through life, at any point in any day, when we hit a challenge, we've got two choices, and
yeah.
one is to go below the point, which is blame, excuses, or denial,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
or ownership, accountability, responsibility. What can I do? That it may be something caused by something else or some, but what can I do to change things rather than just blame or make excuses? Or and the candle in the darkness is a great
It's
way of
exactly that.
bringing that together.
It's a Chinese proverb, and I mean, it doesn't apply just to business; it applies to life in
Yes,
general. If you know, I think it's a real good discipline never to look to blame. You
yeah,
know, always think about what we're going to do about it.
absolutely. And
as people say, it is as it is. What are you going to do about it?
and the great thing I think in business, and I often say to people, is okay. So if this is an industry-wide problem, the people that solve the problem first, the ones who are going to win. So let's not worry about the problem affecting us. Let's look at how we can take
Yeah.
advantage of it. And if we take advantage of it, we'll we'll be more successful.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Whatever that might be. Even
However you define success, yeah, yeah,
I,
exactly.
I mean, I think because I think there's that. It's anecdotal, so I haven't got the evidence, but I think that there's the idea that more millionaires are made in recessions than in boom times, and I've never
Yeah,
heard it. I honestly can't tell you where that's from, but if
no,
you can sort of understand that it's an opportunity for people as much as it is a challenge.
yes, well, yes. I mean, it's like the old thing, isn't it? They're not no problems, just opportunities.
Yes.
I just remember a manager of a hotel. I was one of the hotels in the group I was chair of. Uh, I said, "Oh, there's water gushing through the ceiling," and she ran past me with a bucket. And said, Another wonderful opportunity."
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Turn this one into an opportunity. It's funny going back to. I love that point about that having great quotes that support resilience because I think that's really is so valuable. I mean, there's lots of other areas that where quotes are really useful. The one that I love, funnily enough, I mean, I think there's two. I think that there's Churchill's. If you find yourself going through hell, just keep going. Um, but the one that's quite modern, talk about hotels, is actually from the film The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, I think.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, yeah,
And
good
and
film.
and the guy says, it'll all be all right in the end, and if it's not all right, it's not the end.
Yeah, that's really good. I remember that. I
I
thought
love
it
that
was
one because it's
brilliant.
like, okay, it's not the end. That's right. It's going to
Yeah.
be okay. And but I love that connection with resilience because I think those are probably the most important quotes that we and sayings we can have because it is. You're absolutely right. Resilience. I think the two things that people talk about in these interviews are resilience and imposter syndrome. Are probably the two things
Oh, right,
that they
right.
talk about a lot. So
Yes.
on the learning front, any favourite books other than yours? Let's just remind people of the title. Um,
Well, I read lots of books, economics and so on. Peter Kay is one of my favorite writers.
yes,
He writes some great stuff, and he shares a lot of my prejudices about the power of finance and so on
yes,
in the UK, damaging the rest of the economy.
yes.
So Peter, and obviously Charles Handy I've mentioned already, and he
Yes.
still reads well. Even today, he
Yeah.
reads very well. So that's the
Yeah.
kind of books that I read really.
And on the learning front a bit more, but what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far?
Uh, I don't know really. I um, yeah, it's a difficult question. I mean, I've learned I've learned that it's important to do something you enjoy. Really, do
Yes.
something. Don't don't put up with don't put up with doing something you don't like. And that way, in that sense, I've never worked in my life because
Yes.
I've always done something I enjoy, and if work is that which you don't want to do, then I've never worked. But if you do find yourself in that position, just work out how to get it, either another job or set up a business or whatever it is.
Yep.
Maybe do it slowly, set up a side hustle and do it that way. We have a friend who says that he gave his son my book to read, and his son read it, decided he didn't like his job, and decided exactly what kind of job he wanted. Went on the internet, found the companies that did it, and he got a great job doing it.
Brilliant.
And I just thought, well, that's great, really.
Brilliant. What great.
So it's what I've learned about. Yeah, I think that's probably the most important thing. The other thing is, I can you kind of learn courage in a way. You learn courage as well. I mean, I think we all avoid awkward difficulties, awkward situations,
Yeah.
and then gradually learn that actually dealing with difficult situations is something you can learn, and you can learn
Yeah.
how to do and so on, and you get better at it. Really, I can't say I'm a courageous guy, not at all, but
Well,
I think you can learn to deal with those sort of things.
yes.
And yeah, and I suppose the other thing is that there's always things always look better, always look worse from below than they do from above. When you've got a difficult situation, when you've, let's say, you have to make somebody redundant or something, it just
Yes.
looks awful. But when you've done it, often it doesn't look like anything like as bad
Yeah.
as you thought. In fact, that's one of the things I remember about Peter, who the guy I was talking about earlier. He was very good at that. He used to make people redundant or fire them. And by the time it finished with him, he had them thanking him for
Yeah.
doing it. And he obviously helped them think about what they were doing, why they were in
Yes.
the wrong place at the wrong time, what they could do about it, and how he could help them do about it. And so I thought that was really very
Brilliant.
interesting as well.
I, I think that's very. I think it's a really good point. I fundamentally believe there are very, very few people in the world that go to work do a poor job and are happy about it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and so if they're
Yeah.
not performing, the quicker we can highlight that and help them find,
Yes.
find the thing that's better for them, or maybe make some changes if they can. But I just don't believe people go to work every day and come home and go, great, yeah, I did a really bad job today. I'm really happy about that. And I think so. I think helping people make change is really, really important.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, yeah. You've got
So
to mean it. You've got to mean it. It's no good if you say, "Yeah, we care," and then just
yes.
put them off. You've got to mean it.
Absolutely. I think there's a great book by Kim Scott called Radical Candor, and she talks about the value of speaking plainly, saying things that need to be said. But radical candor is, she describes it, is but when you have personal care for that person, when you care about that person, then
Yes.
then you sort of earn the right, or it's the right thing to do to tell them even things that might be challenging to them. But if you do
Yeah,
it in a
yeah.
way that's caring, then they're going to get the message and hopefully take it on board. I think that's a great one. It's funny you were talking about not doing things that you really love. I very, very briefly, I was lucky enough many, many years ago to be, sounds very, very adventurous, but whitewater rafting in Nepal. And
Oh yes.
one
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
one of
Okay.
the guides was Kiwi. Several of the guides were Kiwis, were New Zealanders, and I got to know one of them, and he was a lovely, lovely man. He was probably about the same age as me, and I said, "How do you get your life?" So he was. They were travelling with his mates, but
Yeah.
his main job was in the summer they were whitewater guides. He was a whitewater guide in Switzerland. Lived in Switzerland. Whitewater guide in the summer. Ski guide in the winter. Um,
Yeah.
in Switzerland, made good money. And I said, "How do you get a life like this? How do you get a life? How do you get a life like this?"
Yeah.
Which perfect. Well, do the things you love. And he said this to me. He said, "Well, Chris," he said, "when I was 16, my father sat me down and he said, 'Listen, son, as you get older, you're going to have to start doing things you don't want to do because that's what growing up is all about.'" And I
Mm.
said, "No, I won't," and I never have. And that's just that's always been in my
Yeah.
mind. It's like, yeah, why?
Exactly.
Why?
There's another book. It's called Screw Work, Let's Play. I don't know if you read that one,
No,
but that goes into how to go about doing it. Basically, there's a bit
brilliant,
in my book about it, but that book really goes into it. How to maneuver yourself and actually how to identify what you really like doing as well. So
brilliant.
it's a pretty nice book on that in that
I
way.
might get that. I might get that for my daughter.
Yeah,
I thought one of my one's already
yeah,
sorted. The other one probably
yeah,
could do with just thinking about things. Wonderful.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm keen to know your view. So in action coach, our key definition of a true business is a commercial profitable enterprise that works without its owners. I'm keen to know what your thoughts are on that as a definition.
I think it's very good. I mean, I think that I've no doubt that my business would run very well for quite a long time without me there.
Yeah.
No question. Uh, because, as I said before, I'm focused on what's happening
Yes.
in 5 or 10 years' time. Uh, I think, and I think the people I've got will, they've learned enough to be able to do it. So, yeah, I mean, if I drop dead tomorrow, it'll be fine. There's no
Brilliant.
question.
Well, let's hope
Uh,
not, but that's great to hear.
so I kind of forgot what was the point of the question?
Well,
Got-
it's really to get your thoughts, and it's really interesting what you said there because and one of the reasons I asked the question is I meet and I actually work with lots of people. This is the sort of space we often work with where their success has come, and most people's success has come from how hard they work. And I say, look, it's pretty much. a gimme that you're going to have to work hard for so many years in your business when you start. But if you continue that process past the point of sort of takeoff, if everything, the success of the business is directly related to your time, then you will become the bottleneck for that business. You
Oh,
will
yeah,
hold the business growth back.
well, even in the beginning, when I mean, I did, I got going as a side hustle basically while I was teaching. And I just took the view even then, well, if I can't do it as a side hustle, then I'm not going to be able to do it when it's a lot bigger.
Love
And
it.
so that's how we did it basically. And
Love
I
it.
just focused on the key things. And, there's only a few things that are absolutely key at any one time. They do change. Just focused on those and did it that way basically.
Love it. I think Kerry talks about what is it? The main thing is to make the main thing the main thing, which I think
Well, exactly. And I do think that prioritizing is the hardest thing for a lot
yes,
of people to do. What's the priority? What really matters here?
yep.
And just decide on that and get on with it. It's.
I,
I mean, you see it in expenditure side of things. People who cut money on some small aspect of the business in an attempt to save money, and it's just failure to prioritize. If you're gonna,
absolutely.
yeah.
I think a time thing, and we do a lot of work with people with time challenges because of that reason. And I think it was one of the American generals, I think it was Eisenhower, that said something like the biggest challenge we have is all the important things aren't urgent and all the urgent things aren't important. And
That's absolutely right.
and it's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's so key to really think about what that we spend enough time doing important things that aren't urgent, and therefore things like a chairman's role is so key because it's important, but it's not urgent. You don't actually have to do it today, but if you don't do it at some point, the business it runs the risk of going down a dead end. So it's such an
Well,
important thing to do.
we had a classic example of that with at some point, I appointed my father to be in charge of um, uh, disaster planning, and that's a classic where nobody has time to think about disaster
Yes.
planning.
Yep.
So I thought, well, good job for Dad. He likes detail, and off he went. And he was round about 2005. Was rattling our cage all the time about bird flu. So bird flu is going to be a problem. You see, what are you going to do about it? And
Oh wow.
bugger off, Dad. We're too busy. It was that kind of thing. He wouldn't let go, kept pressing us, and eventually we had a worked out plan for dealing with most disasters, but the plan involved working from home as it
Yeah.
happens,
Yeah.
and the team actually practiced. This is before teams and that stuff. The team they all had practice at it, and so we knew we could do it. Uh, so actually, when COVID came along, it was seamless. Actually, it was
Brilliant.
just switch over, and everybody knew what. And with teams, I mean, it was just we just
Yes.
drifted into it very quickly. But
Yeah.
my dad's still alive actually, so I was able to tell him, look, well done,
Brilliant.
you got it right. That's quite a great thing, really.
That's wonderful.
But sticking with it, and
Yeah.
yeah,
What a great
yeah,
story.
yeah.
So, so looking forward, Bob, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
Well, we've still got the. I mean, it's barely got going. I think technology and education, which is my broad interest, and in
Yes.
healthcare actually, has barely got going. I mean, AI is giving it a bit of a leg up, but and in some areas it's big. So obviously we've got several AI products already. We're doing quite a lot in that
Yes.
area,
Of course.
and so that will produce further growth. It's no different to other. I mean, no different to other things like the internet coming along, CD-ROMs, and so on. But there's going to be a lot more growth in this, and I think using technology to learn to do things is going to really take off in the next.
Yeah.
Well, it is taking off, and so that's where we go. And so there's another 10, 20 years of growth at least in this business. And so I'm having to, obviously, the challenge is thinking what happens when I'm dead, because obviously we've got to continue with that process. I'd like that process to continue and the benefits to come, to come to Yorkshire, basically, rather than to California, which is where most of the service related
Yeah.
digital activities are going.
Yeah.
and it's bloody annoying. It's very annoying that there aren't more businesses like it. There are a few, and I know them, but that's certainly what we want to do. So it's thinking long term about that sort of thing. Sorry, I forgot your
Brilliant.
question again.
No, no, just about the future, really, which is great. Yeah,
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 no, it was a very, very clear answer. And I
yeah.
am keen to know what you'd say to anyone that's thinking of going to into business right now.
Well, I mean, it's a good question because my two of my sons have got their own business. I've been at it 10 years, and they've just begun to make a profit. But for a lot of that time, I've been thinking, "Oh shit, what have I done here?" Suggesting to them,
Have they read your book? That's the question.
no, before that, the book came out after them. But you do, and so you're sort of a bit reluctant to say to people, "Do it." I think probably the thing is, if you can find ways of doing it without taking big risks, then do it that way. But equally, if you can't, then set up a business and do it. And
Yep.
it's not going to be easy, but you'll enjoy it. And people who do business, I don't know many people who set up businesses or who regret it. They might be
Yeah.
poor, some of them are poor, but they like the freedom. Ultimately, they like the
Yes.
freedom, and that's the
Yes.
thing about it. You've got your freedom. I know you've got to keep your customers happy,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you basically control your own destiny, and that is
Yes.
very attractive. And so, yes, in practice, I would always recommend people have a go if they. I mean, I suggest they need to understand that you've got to have a good product or service.
Yeah.
You've got to make sure that's really good before you jump too far. Make sure you know about it, and then focus on sales. You've got to make sales. If you don't sell something, then well,
Nothing,
if you can't
nothing,
sell it, you've got no product really.
nothing
Nobody's
else happens.
interested. Yeah, yeah. Make yourself useful, as I said,
Make
really.
yourself useful. Love that. That's sticking in my in the back of my
Yeah,
head. I appreciate. And if
yeah.
looking back for yourself, if you started your businesses again, is there anything significant you do differently, Bob? Do you think, or is
I don't think so actually, because I mean, it's because we've done it organically.
yeah,
We still got no debt. We just grew it organically. At each stage, there's a logic about what you do, really.
yep,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are other things we could have done, but basically, I've been very happy with what we have done, really, as we've gone
brilliant.
along.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
I mean, someone asked me that question back. I sort of said, "Well, what do you?" And I think, well, if you're happy where you are, then if you'd made any
yeah,
changes at all, then you might not be here. So,
exactly,
it's
exactly.
that sort of
Yeah,
sliding doors issue, isn't it? Who knows if we'd have done anything
yeah,
different?
that's
So,
that's absolutely,
uh,
yeah.
so final question: what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that?
Yeah, I think it's not to think too long term about where you might be. So I mean,
Yes.
I have no idea where I'd end up. But and bend with the wind. When an opportunity comes along, take it. Don't just slug it away. I mean, I remember a friend who his ambition was to be chief executive of this large old business he was in, and that large business was broken up before he ever got there. And
Right.
you just think, well, why make something so narrow your
Yeah.
ambition? And I think if you define your ambition, as I say, in terms of doing things that you find that are useful or worthwhile or good for your community or you enjoy doing, just keep doing that, and that's
Brilliant.
probably the best way forward, really.
Wonderful. Well, Bob, it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you today. I really appreciate your time. It's been really lots of fun too. And for anyone that's watching would like to get in touch with you or Surpass Assessment, if you're okay with them getting in touch with you, what's the best way of doing that?
Uh, well, probably through my colleague Sally Abat. So it's Sally.abat@surpass.com, and it's spelled Abbatt.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, look, it would be great to swing by in another 6 to 12 months, just see your thoughts for another time.
Yeah.
But before we go, let's just remind us the name of the book. So I've got to write that down
Oh,
too.
it's called Worthwhile Wealth, an entrepreneur's guide to success that satisfies.
Love it.
And it doesn't mean just money; it means the whole thing.
Absolutely love it. So as I say, thank you so much for your time today, and yeah, it'd be great to swing by another 6 to 12 months and just see what's next.
Okay, Chris, it's been great talking to you. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you.